Olenna and Marjorie have one very particular thing in common, and that is that they either do marry or almost marry gay men who have very little interest in either of them. And while most people know that Marjorie wasn't getting any with Renly, fewer people know that, that was almost the case for Miss Olenna up here. So let's talk about the time Lady Olenna almost married a gay Targaryen prince and how that fell apart. Before I do though, thank you all for being patient when I've not been making videos. Again, college, graduating May 1st, very excited. Also, long form content. It's over in the other place. Like, if you want to support me somehow, that'd be very nice, because I'm slowly losing my mind. But here's some content. Now, before Olenna Tyrell was Olenna Tyrell, she was Olenna Redwine. The Redwines are the major house that rules the Arbor. The Arbor is this fun little island, the very, very, like, southernmost part of Westeros. They are technically part of the Reach, so, under the Tyrells. And the Arbor is really cool. It's this, like, little island with a giant fleet, and their main, like, business, their main like product that they make is wine. Get it? Red wine's the name. It's creative. George R. R. Martin built a whole goddamn world. He can name one of the houses who make wine the red wines, okay? Y'all ask for too much. Anyway, the red wines, they make wine. They're in the Arbor. They're cool. They're in a very like temperate island where they get good weather, and they have a giant fleet to protect themselves from the Ironborn. It's honestly like a very sweet deal. And with that, that family is rich, and so, marrying your child to a red wine is typically a pretty good thing. Enter Prince Daeron Targaryen over here. Now, Daron Targaryen was the son of Aegon V, also known as Aegon the Unlikely. He was a pretty chill king. He was a king who was like, hey, what if poor people, aren't treated as trash? Ain't that fun? And Aegon V was also like, maybe we shouldn't be marrying our sisters as Targaryens. Like, maybe that's a bad idea. So Aegon had the crazy idea that, like, hey, I'm gonna marry my children not to each other, but to some of the major houses around Westeros to kind of like, get the support of these more powerful families. And so one of them that he decided to betroth one of his children to were the Redwines. So Daeron Targaryen was betrothed to Olenna Redwine when they were both 9 years old. Aegon V didn't stop there. He betrothed all of his children to these other major houses. Another one of his daughters, Shera, was betrothed to who would be Olenna's future husband, Luther Tyrell. So this is where I do crush show fans' dreams just a little bit when I tell you that fun story in the show that Olenna tells Marjorie about how her sister was supposed to marry Luther Tyrell, and then she got there first. That didn't happen in the books. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a fun scene. I think Dame Diana Rigg, who played Olenna Tyrell, does an amazing job with it. It's very funny, and I don't mind it in the context of the show, but that's just like not what happens in the book. But anyway, how do these two people, Luther Tyrell and Olenna Redwine, who were each set to marry a different Targaryen, how do they end up marrying each other? Well, people didn't follow through on their promises. And by people, I mean the Targaryen princes and princesses, because it's funny, the one time that there is a Targaryen in Aegon V who's like, hey, what if we don't marry our siblings? The Targaryens that he's trying to get not to marry each other, his children, are like, but what if I wanna? Like, what if I wanna marry my sibling? Like, please? And so one by one, all the Targaryen princes and princesses who were betrothed to these major houses start breaking their betrothals. Now, not all of them are just to marry their siblings. Two of them do that, but one of them, the eldest, Duncan Targaryen, he breaks off his engagement to a Baratheon so that he can marry Jenny of Oldstones, who I've done another video on if you want to go look for that. And then Jaehaerys and Shera. Shera was the one who was betrothed to Luther Tyrell. They break off their engagements so that they can marry each other. And then we get to Daron, who also wants to break off his engagement, which he does do at the age of 18. So he breaks off the engagement to Olenna here. But it's not to marry any woman. You see, Daron Targaryen is a confirmed bachelor who just wants to go and live the rough life of a knight. A knight with his other knight friend, his other burly, muscly, very talented with swordplay friend. they did boy stuff together. But yeah, Daron Targaryen was very, very close with Jeremy Norridge, another knight, and they would go off on campaigns together. They'd fight together and, just sword play through the evening. Honestly, doesn't sound bad. What's a little sword play between consenting adults, Anyway, they eventually, because they just want to go off and like do boy stuff and, fight in fights and stuff. They eventually pass away in a war. I don't remember which one, but they both go down together. Very tragic, very beautiful. A lovely tale of two very lovely roommates. Anyway, back to Olenna. So something that I do want to note is that in the book, when she mentions that she almost married a Targaryen, the way she frames it is that she did everything to avoid going through with it. Now, this might be entirely true, and from her point of view, maybe she contributed to the betrothal being called off. I will say where we learn about Daron calling off the betrothal is in World of Ice and Fire, which is supposed to be written from the perspective of the Maesters. So this could just be a case of different perspectives on the same event, all remembering things differently, or, just like writing down the information that they had in the case of the Maesters. Who knows, but either way, Olenna Tyrell seems to have never been too keen on the idea of marrying a Targaryen, and so this worked out very nicely for her. As she puts it, they all have queer notions, those Targaryens, and then those Targaryens would later kind of give it to the Baratheons, because the Baratheons all have a little bit of Targaryen blood in them. And ironically, the reason the Baratheons have some Targaryen blood is from the one Aegon V betrothal that ended up kind of working out, though it was like a replacement betrothal. Because remember, I said Duncan was supposed to marry a Baratheon girl, but then he broke it off, and so Aegon made nice by having his youngest daughter, Raelle, marry a Baratheon boy, and Raelle ended up being Robert Baratheon's grandmother. And so that's why the Baratheons also have queer notions about them. Get it? So how did Olenna end up with Luther? Well, they both got dumped by Targaryens and went, hey, how about you? So no, we don't have the story of, her having a sister who was supposed to marry him, blah, blah, blah. That was, again, a show thing. But it seems like just because they were both suddenly free and they're both from pretty, powerful families, it just seemed like a natural fit. And Olenna seems to have liked him. She doesn't think Luther was very smart, as evidenced by how he passed away, where he literally rode off a cliff. Apparently he was hawking, and he was looking up at the sky as he was riding his horse, and he just kept looking and wasn't paying attention to where the horse was going until the horse just, yee, off a cliff. But hey, it all ended up working out for her, because in the near future, it would not be to her advantage to be married to a Targaryen, so definitely dodged a bullet there. Also the whole, being someone's beard. Probably not the ideal. Okay, good night.